element here about choice making is a reminder for us that choice making is not a quest for certainty. It's decision making in the face of uncertainty. So it involves taking risks. Choice making involves taking risks. But obviously there must be prudent risks. And we ask our organization constantly, it's a very popular kind of request from leaders, is we must practice prudent risk taking. Well, what does that mean? That doesn't really help very much. What does that mean? Does that mean don't make mistakes, or what does it mean? So the way I thought about it is that really good risk taking in organization depends on how we deal with mistake making. Because think about this. Risk taking is one side of a coin. The other side of the coin is mistake making. If you're not making any mistakes, you're not taking any risks. You're just, playing it safe. So how do we deal with effective risk taking? For me, is the way we deal with mistake making. I found it useful to divide mistake making into two categories. There are smart mistakes and there are dumb mistakes. And we need to define the difference between them. So dumb mistakes, for example, you repeat your own mistake. Well, that's not acceptable. You're not learning. Dumb mistake number two, you repeat somebody else's mistake. You're not being observant. You're not looking around you. You're not understanding what others are doing, being observant. Third is betting more than the organization can afford to lose, disproportionate bet in relation to the expected reward. And the fourth is not having a robust enough business case. If somebody says, why did you do that? And the answer is, I thought it was a good idea. That's just not enough. We need to have a robust case. So if we say, look, those are the dumb mistakes, we need to avoid those. What's left over is smart mistakes under one very important condition, that the value of the learning is bigger than the cost of the mistake. Because if it's not, then we're going backwards. And we need to shift the needle, if you like, from blaming to learning. If we blame a mistake, the mistake gets buried or never gets, people never understand why it occurred, and we never improve. So shifting the needle from blaming to learning becomes the key thing, with that obligation that the value of the learning is much bigger than the cost of the mistake, systematically. Two organizations that do this brilliantly well. The airline industry. Every time there's a plane crash, aviation gets safer. The industry is outstanding at rapid root cause analysis, finding the causes of these things, rapidly disseminating the learning. And if you look at the graphs, you look at the progress over time, it's dramatic. Aviation safety. 2017, there was not a single fatality in the US aviation system. That's spectacular. That's happened over time. The second organization that does it very well, that's the military organizations, mostly throughout the world, do what they call an after-action review after each engagement. What did we aim to do? What actually happened? Why did it happen? How can we avoid it happening in the future? And of course, people have to own up and say, well, I dropped the ball here and here and here, but then the issue is not to blame the person, but to learn from that mistake. And then to say, next time we'll do it better because that won't happen again. And this is a crucially important thing. It's the way science learns, through experimentation, most of which are failures. They're not really failures. They're ways of learning what doesn't work, and therefore you keep going until you find something that works well. So lots of test markets, et cetera, as well. So I offer you this way of thinking about risk-taking, and just asking for prudent risk-taking really won't get you there unless you have an explicit philosophy of how you deal with mistake-making as a learning system.